Emergency dispensing sites are a critical part of public health emergency response. The place where mass dispensing occurs is called the Emergency Dispensing Site, or EDS for short. The purpose of this video is to provide you with a brief just-in-time training of the Emergency Dispensing Site, EDS, and its operation before the site is open to the public. This just-in-time training includes, in addition to this video, a description of the emergency situation, a review of EDS operations, including the incident command system, a description and walkthrough of the site, specific roles, and job descriptions and safety protocols. The term mass dispensing refers to situations where there's an urgent need to provide medicine, usually pills but sometimes injections, to a large number of people in response to an infectious disease outbreak or bioterrorist event. In situations where local, regional, and state medical supplies are exhausted, this medicine may be supplied by the Strategic National Stockpile, SNS. The SNS is an inventory of pharmaceuticals and medical materials managed by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control that is requested by the state. An EDS site functions with a combination of public health and safety staff and volunteers. Because of the large number of people who are served, many volunteers with many different skills, both medical and non-medical, are needed. Most of these volunteers are members of Medical Reserve Corps units, or MRCs, Community Emergency Response Teams, or CERT, and Massachusetts System for Advanced Registration of Volunteers, MSAR, and ROTC. The Massachusetts Tort Claims Act provides liability coverage to these volunteers during an emergency. Some towns may provide additional coverage. Emergency dispensing sites must operate safely, efficiently, and rapidly. There are many challenges. First, the sheer number of people who must be treated requires a well-organized approach. EDS staff must be able to move people through the site rapidly. Depending on the emergency and the size of the community, some emergency dispensing sites may need enough volunteers and staff to operate 24 hours a day for several days. The unknown is frequently very stressful to people. In a situation where an emergency dispensing site must be opened, people will likely be worried about their health and the health of their family and friends, and so the EDS must be ready to support and treat people who are very anxious. The EDS provides services for people who may have physical or psychological challenges, people who may not speak or understand English, and people who may have additional health issues. No one will be turned away. Although an emergency dispensing site can be set up in any location, cities and towns have designated specific locations and have made extensive plans for their setup and operation. These plans include site plans showing the flow of people from station to station, management structure, staffing and job descriptions, site security, safety and support. Before the emergency dispensing site is open to the public, it'll be set up for the most efficient and quick flow of people. Signs and other directional aids such as arrows will be used to help guide people. Most cities and towns have already designed a general site plan, which will be modified depending on the type and scope of the emergency, the number of expected participants, and the number of available staff and volunteers. Here's an example of a typical plan. You can see that people move from station to station. We will describe these stations later. The National Incident Management System, NIMS, including the Incident Command System, or ICS, is the management model used by public health and safety personnel across the country to respond to emergencies. ICS provides a clear management structure, including the chain of command, so everyone knows who's in charge of various aspects of the emergency response. ICS is easily expandable, growing to meet the size of the incident. ICS allows multiple agencies and communities to work together under one coordinated organizational structure. In large public health emergencies, many agencies, including public safety, hospitals, and organizations like the Red Cross, may be needed. ICS provides an organizational method for getting timely and accurate information to the public and to other response partners. ICS takes into account worker safety and site security. ICS also outlines organization structures for ongoing planning, resource management, and finance. In the ICS structure, the operation of the EDS falls under the Operations Unit. The clinic manager or commander is the person in charge of the overall clinic operation. The command center is usually away from the main activity of the site. They oversee planning, operations, logistics, and staff and volunteer management. The clinic manager is in communication with other local command centers, usually referred to as the Emergency Operations Center or EOC. EDS volunteers in leadership roles may also be in radio communication with the clinic manager. Using the National Incident Management System, emergency planners have developed predefined roles and responsibilities for all job positions at the emergency dispensing site. Each person has a specific and limited job function. You will be given a job action sheet that describes the purpose of your position, your roles and responsibilities, as well as the person to whom you'll report to and take direction from. There are two very important things to remember about your position. First, always work within the scope of your job description as well as within the limits of any credentials or license you hold. Second, always follow the direction of your supervisor and report to them any important information such as problems with flow of people, equipment and resource problems, and issues of personal safety and comfort. In a large emergency dispensing site that's serving many people, some volunteers are in charge of keeping lines of people moving steadily. These volunteers look out for bottlenecks or for people who have problems that might slow down the lines. Any worker who notices backups should inform the flow maintenance staff so the problem can be solved quickly. Security personnel, both inside and outside the clinic, assist by ensuring orderly conduct. Security is also responsible for the protection of all individuals at the site as well as the facility itself. Law enforcement personnel, possibly assisted by CERT or ROTC volunteers, are usually in charge of security. There are several stations in a typical EDS. Let's follow a person through the site and give you an idea of the activities usually performed at each station. As an individual enters the EDS, they're greeted by a volunteer who briefly orients them to the clinic process and answers basic questions. Greeters identify people who appear unusually stressed or exhibit signs of illness, as well as those with special needs. They notify flow maintenance personnel about people who may need special assistance, such as wheelchairs, interpreters, or medical care, and direct those people to the appropriate area or staff. Greeters set a tone of welcome and calm while still controlling a flow of large numbers of people. Triage is the first level of clinical evaluation when individuals are identified by the greeters as possibly needing immediate medical or mental health care. Medical professionals will then complete the assessment before clients are allowed to enter the emergency dispensing site. Triage personnel refer people who display signs or symptoms of physical illness to medical evaluation. Those with high levels of stress or anxiety are referred to behavioral health. Once cleared, people are then directed to the registration area. At the registration table, volunteers record names and other required information. Behavioral health specialists will be nearby to assist anyone who has become anxious or has other immediate needs. After registering, people are directed to the screening area where they fill out a medical screening form. Answers will indicate whether or not it's safe for them to receive the medication. Medical professionals review the form, and if any answers raise concerns, the person's referred to a medical evaluation. Screeners also provide answers to any medical questions a person may have. If the person refuses medication, the screener will direct them to forms collection and discharge. Otherwise, if cleared, they move on to the dispensing area. At dispensing, volunteers working under a medical professional administer medication under standing orders. They verify the person's identification, review the screening form, administer or dispense medication, and complete the forms. Volunteers also provide that person with educational information such as how to care for the vaccination site or other required follow-up. The person is then sent with their form to the forms collection discharge area. The volunteer at this station collects the form, provides the person with any additional information or educational handouts, answers any final questions, and then discharges the person from the site. During their trip through the EDS, some people may need additional support. Volunteers will be available to provide translation or interpretation, child care support, and stress management and other services. Making sure that the staff and volunteers are safe and well cared for is critical to the smooth operation of the emergency dispensing site. Depending on the nature of the emergency, volunteers and staff may be provided with vaccine or other prophylactic treatment before the clinic opens. If required, they are provided with personal protective equipment. Safety protocols will be reviewed before the clinic opens so that everyone is aware of necessary precautions. These protocols must be followed. Break rooms and food are provided for volunteers and staff. Behavioral health specialists will be on hand to provide guidance, counseling, and stress management. As you've seen, emergency dispensing sites are complex, but planners have broken them down into manageable pieces. There are only 3 critical things to remember. Number 1, always follow directions from and report to your supervisors. If you have a question, ask for help. Number 2, know your role and work within your job description and your license. And number 3, be safe and take care of yourself. Follow safety protocols and standard precautions. Take breaks and be aware of your stress level. Across the country, public health and safety staff and volunteers are making plans to protect citizens in the event of a public health emergency. It's important for all of us to be the response. Thank you.